everyone. Wow, that's very live. And welcome. My most profound gratitude to you all for joining us today in this collaborative conversation on the future of childcare in Vermont. And also my deepest gratitude to Let's Grow Kids and the Let's Grow Kids Action Network for including me in this work over the past year. I'm really, really happy and honored to be here. My name is Myrna Valerio. I use she, her pronouns. I also go by the Myrnavator in social media spheres. And if you have never experienced me outside of today, out in these Vermont streets, trust me, you will eventually. If it's not in a health department campaign, a mountain biking or a skiing project, you might see me in a tourism campaign next week perhaps, or on the cover of 7 Days a couple years ago. In the 6 years, very different. In the 6 years that I've lived in Vermont, I have managed to successfully, although not intentionally, infiltrate every area of this state with my face. So I'm not mad about it. I love this place, and I love the unique promise and potential that this place holds for us. Okay, so enough about my enduring love for Vermont. I'd like to begin with dreaming. How many of us like to dream? I'm a teacher, I always ask questions, and you have to answer. Thanks. Let's daydream for a little bit. So we're here having this conversation, continuing the momentum, feeding off the momentum, and then also feeding into more momentum for this work that still needs to get done since the passing of Act 76. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever stopped to casually think about what an ideal child care setup would look like? Ideal. So say you're a mountain biker. How many mountain bikers here? I know there's got to be somewhere in Vermont. Raise your hands up high. Thanks. How many skiers here? How many backcountry skiers here? Okay, great. You know how with mountain biking or skiing, you need the proper setup, right? You have your bike or you have your skis, and I know this is very niche and in the weeds, but you have your components, the appropriate components that make the ride the best for you. You have the right bindings, the right skis, the right helmet, the right poles to make your ski experience the best. So what are the components that create the best experience for childcare, the best high in the sky? I'm talking, we have no limits to financial resources, right? Can you imagine? To location resources, to personnel resources. What is your pie in the sky? And I think, and this question pertains to everyone, not just everyone in this room, because clearly you are invested in this, but even people who don't have young kids anymore, or whose kids are all grown, or who've never had kids. Childcare obviously impacts all of us in many, many different ways. So, what's the dream setup? Who's there? Why is it happening? Where is it happening? Who made it possible? How is it happening? When is it happening? And I want you to think, I invite you to think about systemic solutions and individual solutions, because both of those work together. Priya Parker, anybody heard of Priya Parker? She wrote the book, The Art of Gathering, and she encourages speakers at workshops and conferences to pose magical questions. And I love this idea of a magical question, of creating magic together, using our hearts and our minds and our experiences. Because many times when we dream, when we envision things, they become reality. So let's hope that this is what happens. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. Maybe 3, okay? I don't know if this is a talkative group. And you are going to turn to your neighbor or neighbors, maybe 3 or 4 people, and you are going to have a 2-minute discussion. I will time you. 2-minute discussion. Considering all these things, who, what, when, where, how does this happen? How does the ideal child care setup happen? And then we will share. 1 or 2 shares, okay? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm gonna have you turn to your neighbor right now. All right, we got 2 minutes. 1 minute.
Okay, then we'll go.
There are 2 seats right in the front row. Grab them.
I'm loving this energy. I'm going to give you 1 more minute. Okay, thank you very much. If you can hear me, clap once, twice, 3 times. Thank you. Thank you for your applause. Okay. I would love to have 1 or 2, maybe 3 shares if we have time. Who has something really dynamic and amazing that they would like to share? Here we go, right there.
Okay, a great space, a place to go outside, very well-paid and trained caretakers, a connection to elders, healthy food, gardens, animals, art, parental involvement, and local involvement, so it's tied to the community.
Yes, thank you very much. That's awesome. Woo! It's kind of like how they do it in Japan. In some places in Japan, they have the elders and the youth all together, and it's just life-giving for everyone involved. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, here.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn York. I'm one of the executive directors at Turtle Island Children's Center in Montpelier. We have been doing this for the last year because we have had to move. We are almost moved to our next location. We were at our last one for about 35 years. So we do not have unlimited resources, but if we did, a big thing is a cyclical situation in the whole community, right? So that everyone involved needs to feel cared for, needs to feel inspired, needs to feel like everyone is there for them. It needs to feel like a healthy environment for the children, for the teachers, for the families, for the community at large. It needs to feel like a space that the community feels like is a part of the community. And through that, we'll have community investing back, and then the circle continues and continues and continues. And so, I don't really think specific because I think those things can come per community based on what the community needs. But the main thing is just keeping everybody focused on each other.
Absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Thank you. How about one more share? One more share. Right here. Thank you.
Hi there. I would say that I think the main thing that we need is really talented staff who are supportive and well prepared for the job, and then are really well supported to show up for the kids every single day.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. I love the spirit. I love the energy that you were giving as you were having your conversations. I love the shares. Thank you so much. I love the variety, the brilliance of everything that you are thinking about in terms of what we need and what we want for our young children. So I'll talk about my own childcare dreams in a little bit. But first I wanted to share a little bit about myself, why I get to be here today. And the cool things that I get to do that have been directly impacted by my ability to have access to quality, affordable, and adequate childcare. I have a 22-year-old now. He's a senior in college. And I will not be broke after next year, and I'm really, really excited about that. But I wanted to talk about my experience as a child of Head Start, and also my experience as a parent of a youth 20-something years ago. So, as I said, I get to do really cool things for work. I don't make the best ice cream in the world. I don't run a huge nonprofit that's really impactful, but I do get to do some cool things. Let's see, I was a teacher for 18 years. I have one of my former teachers here in this room today from Westchester County, New York, Karen Butt, which is so cool. I cried before coming up here. I'm a sponsored trail runner. You might have seen me out on the trails or on the Burlington bike path, rushing, because I'm always late to something. I'm a sponsored cyclist, and also a sponsored skier. I'm a National Geographic adventurer for the year of 2018. I coached Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Not bragging, but bragging. I coached him for his first half marathon that he did in Cuba. Just 3 days ago, I found myself mid-mountain at Stratton Mountain Resort, learning for the second time only learning a downhill mountain bike on a brand new, amazing, very expensive mountain bike supplied to me by one of my sponsors. And I had to stop and think, oh my goodness, I don't believe that I get to do this for work, even though I really suck at it. Like they pay me to suck at stuff, and I love it. Who has that job? I helped design my own darn tough Vermont sock called the Motivated Sock, some of whose proceeds go to Come Alive Outside, which is a beautiful program based down in Rutland in southern Vermont, that offers really creative, thoughtful, and meaningful outdoor programming for the people down there. In November, I start working with my editor on a book that was due 4 years ago. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But I get to do that too. And I'm speaking to you today here in my unofficial capacity as the cheerleader and ambassador for the state of Vermont. I love it here. And again, none of what I do now, none of what I get to do, none of the people that I get to speak to, none of that is possible without having had the vast resource of time and energy that affordable, adequate, and accessible childcare offered to me and my family. Let's see, we had Miss Barbara. Miss Barbara was this beautiful Chilean woman who had an in-home childcare, and she had about six to eight kids. Her husband, her wife, her husband and her daughter were all licensed child care providers, and so they would tag team it, and they were all excellent. They were all very well read on the latest trends in early childhood education. She had an amazing outdoor space for kids to play. She had the best curricula. She was strict but very kind and generous. And my son got to take part in that. And she was also just a wonderful human being who knew that I was down there alone. My own husband was up in New York still working, and we were in Maryland. And she gave him a birthday party. And it was just a wonderful way to exist as a mother, a very worried mom with a child who never ever wanted to come home at the end of the day. He's still like that, 20-something years later. After Miss Barbara, we had the opportunity to put Rashid, my son, into larger daycare centers that were also preparing him for preschool and kindergarten. And both of these centers were run by women who had advanced early childhood education degrees. They knew how to do every job at their centers. They paid their teachers well, and it was very obvious that there was very, very little turnover. The kids were happy, they were well loved, they were very, very prepared for pre-K and kindergarten, and they had a lot of outdoor time. And both of these centers even offered Saturdays where we could drop the kids off for 5 hours and be adults. It was amazing, for $30. And so, I also want to say that for me personally, that time over the summer, I was a teacher, and if you know anything about educators, most of us only get a 10-month salary. We were not making money over the summer. If we are, it's a 10-month salary spread over 12 months. And so I always had to supplement that with tutoring and other work and other professional development. I also was able to go to grad school, and in 2008, I had this health crisis, and it was the last summer that my child was available for childcare. And I was able to take care of myself. I would drop him off in the morning, and I would start running again. It was this crisis where I thought I was having a heart attack, but it was an anxiety attack because I was doing too much, like I am now. That hasn't changed. But I was able to take care of myself. I was able to engage in self-care. And I don't think a lot of people think about self-care when they are thinking about childcare. It allows the parents a break, a breather when they have a day off, so that they can pour into themselves, because eventually they are still going to pour back into their families. And so that's what having access to childcare allowed me to do. I myself, as I said, was a child of Head Start. I loved Head Start. My mom got to go with me because I think a requirement back then was that, I don't know if it's the same now, but the parents had to come and volunteer and be in the classroom with the child sometimes. And my mother never finished 8th grade. But I just learned that, she told me a couple months ago, that she actually continued her own learning to read while I was in Head Start, because I was in Head Start, because that had been modeled for her by the amazing teachers there. And so she attributes her very strong reading and writing skills to having come to Head Start with me. That is incredible. So I had this experience as a child of Head Start. My son got to experience a really vibrant educational setting while both my husband and I worked. He grew socially, emotionally, and physically in developmentally appropriate ways. I could trust that these educational professionals, I could trust them with my child. And again, it took so much off my chest. And I also knew that my son was with people who held children in very high regard. I feel really blessed that as a 2-income, sometimes 1 income, but not on me, family, we were able to do this. And all of this access and availability of childcare contributed to me being here with you today. So, this is my dream. That childcare in Vermont is affordable, accessible, adequate for every family that needs it. My dream is that parents and caregivers who want to and need to participate in the labor force can, without worrying that most or all of their income is going into childcare and leaving them in a worse or no-win situation. My dream is that every young child has access to a Miss Barbara, to brilliant, fun, engaging, and playful learning led by well-compensated early childhood education professionals. My dream is that we continue tackling this as a unified community. Whatever your political affiliation might be, one of the things that I love about being in Vermont is that we do come together on so many issues, because in the end, we're all humans with needs, desires, and dreams. What Act 76 accomplished is huge, but the work is not over yet. As long as folks have kids, as long as we live, work, and play in community, this is an issue that we cannot forget. I hope that all of you will continue dreaming, envisioning, and acting, not just for the economic and cultural future of Vermonters, but for the human future and the potential and promise we all hold. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, really. And we just got motivated. All right, that was a terrific experience. Thank you so much, Myrna. Your partnership has really been a joy and boost to this work, so thank you. Thank you. I'm Allie Richards. I'm the CEO of Let's Grow Kids, and
I'm not gonna be able to say that much anymore, so, woo, that feels good. And we're gathered here today, sounds like a wedding, and actually it's sort of like, it feels a little bit like a wedding, right? Because all my favorite people are here, and we have beautiful weather for our wedding. But seriously, we are gathered here today for two powerful reasons. First, to highlight the impact of a decade of childcare progress. Wow, including Let's Grow Kids and all of the contributors and supporters. And mark it sunset. We're also here to pass the baton, to roll into phase 2 of Vermont's Child Care Campaign and highlight the amazing early childhood organizations that are going to take it from here. So, we also are here to recommit to the effort, okay? And that's a really important part of what we want to talk about today. So, who's with me on that one? All right, let's get right to it. Vermont, and actually all of you, all of us, just proved what's possible when you act with courage and unified strength, okay? Vermont makes bold public investment in childcare. Lives are changed forever. In just 2 short years since we passed Act 76 together, we've lowered costs for thousands of Vermont families. We supported early educators by increasing their compensation. Okay, where are the early educators at? Hello! Because you're worth it. You're worth it. Worth everything we got. And we've helped hundreds of childcare programs expand or open. Just 2 short years. These investments, what are they doing? They're getting our kids ready for success in school. They're also putting parents back to work. They're letting our businesses hire and grow and thrive. Okay? It's amazing. That's what this movement has really done. A family issue is a business issue. That's kind of a tough concept at first, I just want to say. But it's a really given now, thanks to our work together. Okay? That's the power of the movement. That's the power of the movement. Yes, this is a family issue. Of course it is. It's also a business issue. It's a workforce issue. It's a community issue. That's why you're all here today. Look at us together here today, gathered here today. This would not have been possible without the leadership of our lawmakers. Okay? Seriously, I'm looking at past, current, former representatives, statewide electeds who are here today, mixed into the crowd. Someone from out of state was like, they're all just mixed into the crowd. It's like, yeah, this is Vermont. This is why we get shit done. Okay? The leadership of our lawmakers, the courage of our lawmakers, passing Act 76. You showed that this is a, tripartisan support. I mean, really, quad-partisan, if that was a real word. Dems, progressives, independents, Republicans, a libertarian, okay? I really need to, sink in on that, because I'm not going to get to say this very much more often. The tripartisan support of Act 76 proved to the country that this is not a partisan issue. It is a unifying issue that's going to change the trajectory of our state and reshape Vermont's future. That is no small thing. Let's give it up for the leadership of our lawmakers. Before I get into the intellectual firepower we've assembled over here, I just need to thank you all one more time. If I started naming names, we would seriously be here forever. So it's hard for me not to do it. I want to point at every one of you. But let me just say, if you're here today, if you joined in some part of this fight, I am grateful to you. This has been the honor of my professional life, truthfully. So thank you all. Thank you. And today's really about highlighting the success, yes. But it's also about recognizing the gaps that remain, okay? Taking an honest look at the progress we've made and what we still have to do. That's why we brought you all together with amazing leaders from Vermont and around the country to really highlight the progress and take stock in what's left. So I'm about to introduce our State of Childcare report.
from the incredible leaders who are going to take this to the next level, okay? And they're going to share progress, yes, but also what challenges remain, what opportunities we have to seize to fully fulfill the promise of Act 76 and make sure every kid has the childcare that they need and deserve, like Myrna's dream. So, it is my absolute honor to introduce Erin Roche, Director of First Children's Finance Vermont, Sharon Harrington, Executive Director of Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children, and Morgan Crossman, Executive Director of Building Bright Futures. Please come on up. Thank you so much. Thanks, Allie. This is the second time I have had the honor of following Allie at a big assembly. It is not as easy as it looks. She sets a high bar. So here we are. Oh, great, my slide is up there. Fabulous. So I'm Erin Roche. I'm the Director of First Children's Finance Vermont. And I get the privilege of leading a small but mighty team here in Vermont of Jen Severance, Rose Morrison, Deb Brennan, Kathy Wrights, Tess Weaver, and Sam Collins. Some of them are here, some might be watching the live stream, but it's, as Allie said, it is like the privilege of my lifetime to work with this team. Anyway, and what I really wanted to say was that this team has awarded $3.4 million in capacity grants to create 1,693 new spaces in the 2.5 years we've been here in Vermont. And at the same time, the 7 of us have supported more than half of the regulated childcares in the state with Act 76 implementation and what I'll call good business practices. This is the work that we are here for, and we're just so excited to be doing it in this moment. So, this is the audience participation part. You can see the slides behind me. Remember, I said there's 7 of us, and so there's 7 bullet points here. What I'd like you to do, play along with me, all together. One brave little state. You just have to say the numbers. You can say as much as you want, but you just have to say them. So, one brave little state. 2 years of Act 76 and First Children's Finance in Vermont. 3% more early care and education programs. 4%, thank you. More spaces for young children. 5 times 10. More families get affordable access to childcare. 6 quarters of more new early childhood education programs. 7 times 10 and more. Entrepreneurs have planned for new businesses and facilities. Gives me goosebumps. But to me, those numbers and those percentages don't really mean anything without knowing the impact on real people and real families. So those numbers mean that as many as 800 more young children whose families can make the best choices because they have access to excellent childcare in their community. See the photo? Excellent childcare in their community. Those are real photos, by the way. And nearly 2,000, thank you, Morgan, nearly 2,000 more families that weren't eligible for childcare financial assistance before, since Act 76, are saving something like $100 to $300 a week. And as a wise soul once said, that's a lot of ice cream. Or it's a car payment. Or it's an emergency fund for when your refrigerator breaks, like mine did last month. $100 to $300 a week. That that's meaningful for families in Vermont. Okay, looking to the future, I said that 70 or more entrepreneurs have worked with us on plans for businesses or facilities this year. And I hope you all will join us at the end of September to celebrate those projects at our symposium. Stay tuned for the invitation to that. We are working with people to convert former school buildings, the heart of so many of our communities, into child care facilities and community facilities. And that is still to come, right? And we are working with all kinds of employers, from ski resorts to medical centers, from people who make soap to people who make software, to come up with creative ways to ensure their employees have access to child care. Just this week, hot off the press, we opened the latest Make Way for Kids grant round. If you want to start or expand in child care, there's funding available. Talk to me or one of my team after this. And next week, we will have 20 entrepreneurs who have dreams of opening a child care business at our startup boot camp. 20. We're really excited about that. I am filled with optimism. I hope you can sense that. At the same time, the biggest obstacle that we face right now isn't the money, it isn't the facilities or the political will, it's the workforce. That all of these investments in good business practices, in affordability, in facilities, aren't going to mean anything if we don't have qualified early educators to care for our children. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
So amazing to see familiar faces who've been on this journey. It's a little exciting and sad. Some folks I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm so happy to see you all here today. So, I think Erin did a great job following up on Allie. You know, she's got a stage presence here. A lot more humor than you would think of me, because as Erin said, the workforce is really the work to be done. But we do have some things to celebrate. And I have older eyes, so I have really large type and lots of pages. So as I fumble, please bear with me. So that's okay. So Erin spoke about, the great work adding capacity. Those 1,600 plus childcare slots. It's amazing. It really is. And we know that this is having tremendous impact on children and families' ability to go to work and our state economy. But we just have to keep in mind that whenever we expand capacity, we need early childhood educators to be in those classrooms. And so that's what I'm going to really focus on today. So Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children, the mouthful, Vermont AUIC, is focused on recruiting and retaining the workforce that educates our youngest children. This is not babysitting. This is the most critical time in brain development. And as I bet everyone here knows, the brain is 90% developed by the age of 5. And that's why we're so committed to this particular issue. And studies show the biggest marker in quality in a child's early education is the experience and the qualifications of the early childhood educator. That is what we're all about as an organization. We elevate the voices of early childhood educators and advocate for their needs. So, we need early childhood educators who are well prepared, accountable, and fairly paid. More on that. A wonderful thing about Vermont is that our state invests in early childhood education. That includes investing in career supports to grow our workforce. We've added 230 early childhood educator jobs in the past 2 years. That's really great. However, we need 10 times that to meet the demand. So there's where our work lies. But we're really poised for the next stage of this ongoing historic transformation. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what happens when you invest in preparation programs for early childhood educators. Young people, which you'll hear soon, now see early childhood education as a viable career. This is our future workforce. Vermont AUIC administers a youth apprenticeship program, which is highly successful and really desirable. This past year, we enrolled 31 high school students in this program. Of those, 3/4 of our youth apprentices were offered a summer or permanent job from their sponsoring childcare center. Half of our graduating youth apprentices are attending college full-time. These are really great statistics. I'm multi-pages, as I said. And thanks to additional funding from the legislature, we're expanding this widely effective program to prevent a waiting list and accepting applications now. So that's our future workforce. And for our current workforce, right now we have 108 early childhood educators enrolled in preparation programs through our Teach Early Childhood Vermont Scholarship Program. This allows them to pursue a higher education debt-free. One early childhood educator, Olivia, told us, "Teach didn't just help me get a degree, it helped me find my voice, define my purpose, and become the educator and leader I always hoped I could be." We work with the state to award bonuses to early childhood educators when they achieve a new career ladder credential. Since 2023, when Act 76 was enacted, the number of educators earning credential bonuses has more than doubled. We went from 216 in 2023 to 518 in 2025. 1/4 of those were for a bachelor's degree. People want to join this workforce. They want to be well prepared and to do this important work. Each new educator leads to someone available to be in a classroom to stay open, or a classroom to expand. More importantly, children are getting richer, more sustainable experiences. So here's one of the things we're up against. The federal budget reconciliation bill restricts federal funding for student loan eligibility for low earning degrees. I heard that. Guess what the lowest earning degree in the country is? You know it. Early childhood education. We must protect early childhood education students and higher education programs here in Vermont so that we can continue to graduate qualified early childhood educators to lead our classrooms and open new programs and serve children and families. One way we can do this: pay early childhood educators a fair wage. Increase their compensation as they increase their credentials. Seems logical. That will retain our workforce, protect our higher ed programs, and it's the right thing to do. We can do this. Vermont's investment in Act 76 has created funding paths for many programs to accept child care subsidy, which they have used to improve pay. This legislative session, state agencies will be submitting a report to the legislature on how the state could implement minimum pay standards for early childhood educators. We are poised to increase compensation, qualifications, and accountability all at the same time, with a long transition period for our current workforce. In 2025, the Vermont Senate passed a bill that would establish individual professional licensure through the Secretary of State's Office of Professional Regulation for the approximately 6,500 early childhood educators who are currently working in family and center-based child care programs. The House will take this up in 2026. Professional recognition brings value and respect to early childhood educators. It fills a regulatory gap in child care programs outside of public schools. A license to practice gives early childhood educators a professional identity, clear career pathways, minimum pay standards, and a way to communicate their expertise, just like nurses and other professionals. Vermont is among a cohort of states leading the way toward a future where early childhood education is an individually licensed, portable profession. This is going to open doors for educators, improve hiring, attract educators, families, and workers to Vermont. It raises the field's status nationwide. Our organization, Vermont AEYC, fully supports OPR's bill, and we encourage you to do the same. This is going to strengthen our workforce commitment, stabilize staffing, and that will lead to the capacity that Aaron was referencing. This means all children will have access. This sort of goes back to the dreams that we heard earlier. All children will have access to child care programs that work best for them and their family, are taught by a stable workforce of qualified early childhood educators, which means families can work and children can arrive at kindergarten with the skills they need. This is the future we can look forward to when we can continue to invest in early childhood education and in early childhood educators. I see you all back there. Thanks to Let's Grow Kids and all of you child care champions throughout Vermont who have been instrumental in getting us here. Vermont AEYC is committed to keep building upon this success. And I just want to take a moment to thank our legislators who, through their dedication to children and families, have moved this forward, and I look forward and excited to work with you. And of course, we couldn't do this without data and really solid partnership. And so now I'd like to invite my colleague Morgan to share more.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Morgan Crossman. I'm the Executive Director of Growing Futures, which is Vermont's Early Childhood State Advisory Council. Because so many of our legislative leaders are in the room, for the record, I am not a lobbyist. So we are a nonprofit that is charged under state and federal statute to be the advisors to the governor and the legislature on kids and families prenatal to age 8. And we do that work by bringing together over 500 partners and families to elevate family community voice, to hold a vision for both early childhood but also child care policy, and to make sure our system's accountable to outcomes for kids and families. Under Act 76, our legislative leadership gave us a historic responsibility, which is to track this law. How do we know if we're making a difference for whom and under what circumstances? So what I want to start with is where we are leading the country. Vermont is now #1 in child care financial assistance with the highest income eligibility in the nation. We are also consistently leading the country in access to pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds in a mixed delivery model. And the reason that's so important for childcare is because so many of those slots in our capacity are in private and community-based programs. So when you think about the investment that we made in early care and education, one of the things I want to call your attention to is what are our outcomes for kids. If we've made decades worth of investment, what do we know? First is that children who attend pre-K programs are more ready for kindergarten. They're showing up ready to learn. The second is that our 4-year-olds are exceeding expectations in math and social emotional development. So when we're thinking about how we are investing in our youngest and most vulnerable kids and families, we're seeing that impact already, and we need to keep pursuing those outcomes. When we think about enrollment and access, that's where I want to be the data nerd. And thank you, Tom McClay, for saying to me earlier today, you are the data nerd, but you also make people take action based on it. And that's probably the best description of building great futures that I've heard. So take a look at the chart. What you're seeing is a significant increase in enrollment in child care financial assistance. So compared to June 2023, 3,200 more children are enrolled in CCF-VT. We also have 1,800 families that are enrolled for the first time because of that expanded eligibility. I also think it's really critical not just to give you some numbers, but also to talk about some of our equity breakthroughs. And the primary one I want to call attention to is that for the first time, families who were previously excluded because of documentation status are now eligible. So we are actually serving our most vulnerable families and communities in the nation. So So what do we need to monitor and prioritize? First, improving access for every family, right? Right now, not all families have this benefit, and especially when we think about those who are facing language and outreach challenges, like our new American population, it's really critical that we're thinking about that improved access. As you heard from Sharon, it's prioritizing the workforce, right? We've made so much progress, and we know that early learning experiences and the high quality interactions are what make the biggest difference for our kids. The third is expanding and sustaining program capacity, which is what Erin's team is working so closely with our state agency leaders on. Our families can't enroll kids if they don't have the slots. The fourth is strengthening data systems and partnerships, right? We need to actually know the real experiences of families, of communities, of our businesses to really understand the impact of this law. And then finally, it's about protecting our historic investment, right? So as we're monitoring federal policy changes in that context, we have to ensure that we maintain the progress we've made. And that's where the partnerships are critical. And it's not just the three of us that get to stand here and celebrate up on the stage. It's all of us, right? So monitoring and improving Vermont's early childhood system is not the job of one agency leader or one leader in the system. It takes every single one of us. And part of Building Bright Future's role is to bring together those partners and the data so that we have one clear picture on what's happening for our kids and families. So if you want to dive deeper, we have the QR code. We're very fancy at VTAEYC. Thank you, Michelle, to ensure that we get you access to the data in that portal. This is a critical moment of momentum and responsibility for us as a state. Vermont's taken bold steps towards transformational change in our system. We have some really great early wins. And that's the promise, right? It's what happens when we pair investment with actual accountability. So thank you to our legislative leaders for actually caring about monitoring the impact of our laws, our policies, and trying to really improve outcomes for kids. Now our work is to keep monitoring and listening. It's to adapt and then keep improving the system because it's not done. There's always work left. We don't want to have this be a law that just sparks a little bit of change. It's about that continuous investment in kids and families. So I want to leave you with one final piece, which is our true measure of success is super simple. Every child, every family thrives. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. This is State of Child Care in Vermont. All right, I got brought some friends with me. This is the last part. I hope it's not too hot in here. Y'all okay? All right. This is the last part. You gonna scooch over? Yep. Then? Yep. All right. Last part of our program before we raise a glass together and celebrate each other and our work together. We're gonna have a dynamic, short and sweet panel here. All right, we're going to start with some national folks. We're going to turn to some Vermont folks, and then we're going to take a couple questions from you all. So think about what you want to ask, what you want to hear about. And I'm going to just start by asking you all to say who you are and why you care at all about childcare. And you all have microphones. Do you want to? Rebecca, go for it.
Hi. Do you guys hear me? Great. My name is Rebecca Gale. I am a reporter and writer with the Better Life Lab at New America, where I cover childcare. So I'm a journalist who writes about childcare, but I do so through the home of a think tank based in Washington, D.C. And I've been following Vermont for a number of years because a lot of what we look for is examples of policy success where government intervention can make a big difference for children and families. And it led me here. And I've written a number of stories about this state's progress. I look forward to writing more.
Careful what you say. She might be writing one right now.
I'm Lauren Hogan. I'm with VTAEYC. I've been there for 10 years and have also gotten to spend a lot of time in Vermont and with a lot of Vermont friends. It's wonderful to be able to be here today and supporting all of this. I guess I sort of got caring about childcare to start with. It's sort of we sort of say, whatever your problem is, we're probably your solution. You want to talk about the workforce? Hi. You want to talk about family economic security? That's us. You want to talk about women being able to choose what matters for their lives and children thriving. You want to talk about how to create all of an economically thriving nation, like that's early childhood education, and we're going to be the solution to all of your problems, and that's where all of my interests have come together as well. So excited to see Vermont attending to all of those possible solutions.
And similarly, I'm Marika Cox-Mitchell, the Bainham Family Foundation, so I'm the philanthropic entity in the house, and we are committed to ensuring that young children can thrive in communities, and certainly supporting early childhood is important and critical for that. And so we're also solutions driven, and so that's why we turn to Vermont, because you all thrive in childcare solutions.
All right, Vermonters over here.
So I started my career as an art teacher in a public school. I worked with kindergarten through 8th graders, and I really enjoyed it. And then I got a job in a child care center, and I realized that I love working with young children. And that career change was kind of shocking, because I pretty immediately realized that people had less respect for my expertise. The change in compensation was horrible. I worked more hours a day, more days per year, and I knew the work that I was doing was important. But I felt really called to continue doing that work, and I know that working in a field that isn't seen as a profession can be demoralizing, and it can be financially ruinous. But I was really lucky. I had leaders who helped me thrive. They made sure that I kept learning, I kept taking classes, I kept going to school, I kept meeting new people. I went on to earn my master's degree while I worked in a child care center, and then I went on to earn my PhD. And what drives me is transforming how policymakers in our society views children and early childhood educators.
My name is Alora Zargo, and I am now a freshman in college at UVM. I've been involved in early childhood education since I was 14 years old, and I've been in the Career Center at Brattleboro in Vermont, getting college credit to be as prepared as possible. And I've done a lot of advocacy. I've been to a lot of VTAEYC organization groups. And childcare is really important to me because I understand and I see how important these children are to not only the families around us, but our community and our next generation. I mean, we're making the next generation. We're helping them get to the point where they need to be. And this field needs supporters, and it needs people who care, because without us, they're not going to get what they need, and we need them.
You know, 0 to 6 is the most important years of a child's life. It's the formative years. I don't need to tell you guys that. It's the years when you get the highest return on investment for taking care of the people that become the future citizens of our country. And that our country does not provide for those kids is an abomination. So for 1% of the Pentagon budget, there would be $10 billion actually available for early childhood care around the country, and that would probably close the gap here in Vermont. You know, just Vermont's share. I'm not suggesting you get the whole $10 billion. You know, I mostly focus on national budget priorities, and I'm just obsessed about the idea that we have state-of-the-art weapons and bottom-of-the-rung childcare. And it's when Rick called me up and said, you know, I got this plan to take care of the youngest children in Vermont, I had to do it. I mean, I felt like, Vermont's a small state, and we can make it happen here, and this is finally something actual, direct service that we can provide. And, for me, trying to get the federal government to change is a little frustrating, but it's great that Allie and her team and all of these people sitting up here and all of you guys have been able to do it. So I'm really honored to be a part of this.
Thank you. I think you forgot to say your name, but that's Ben Cohen, something about ice cream. I'll read more about that later. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. So I'm going to start with the national folks, okay? You just heard about the state of play in Vermont. Marika, why don't I start with you? Why is it so important that Vermont continue to make progress in this work in 0 to 5 from where you sit in your perch nationally?
Sure. I will say that child care conversations have shifted. It's gone from crisis to now folks are like, okay, I need solutions. I need to be practical and tangible. And frankly, I would say as early childhood educators and advocates, we were not prepared for this moment. We could tell you more about the crisis, and we have very few places we can point to and say, and here's what it looked like at a very practical level. And so for us, Vermont is the only place we can point to within the U.S. context to say, here's what it looks like. Certainly there are gaps that need to be filled, but this is as close as we can get right now in the U.S. context and demonstrate that it's possible. Too often, examples of is this possible? It's an international example. It's Canada, it's Finland, it's Germany, great places. But it just made it such a distant solution. And so Vermont puts it in the U.S. context in a way that works for folks in Vermont, but other states can also replicate and can also be replicated at the national and federal level. So I think it's really, really important. I mean, no pressure, but all eyes are on. It feels like, that person who leaves their small town and goes to American Idol and win. So we're now our child care idols we're all looking at.
No pressure.
And so that's why it's really important, again, to demonstrate that the child care system, American families or families in America, early childhood educators and administrators want it is possible and within reach.
And I'd say the flip side of that is if we start going south, that would set us back.
I'll move to Finland.
Great, thank you. Rebecca, why don't you react a little bit to what you heard from the sort of state of childcare today? And you're, as a national reporter, you get to see this across the country. How does Vermont compare in various ways for you?
Well, part of what's so exciting about Vermont is you guys are now bringing out more data and evidence that what you've been doing is a success and can continue to be a success. Like Allie says that in jest, that we're failing, what does that mean? No one in this field wants to see you fail. They all want to see you succeed, and the more you're able to bring this information forward, whether it's through events like this, whether it's through stories, that is really helpful. We've been talking today about this. A lot of what you've done until now is really going to benefit Vermont's children, but from here on out, what you're going to do is going to benefit the country's children, because other states are going to look to you as an example of how this could work. And there are things I know people are talking about tweaking or changing or adjusting, and that's part of the legislative process. There's also a lot to be done with protecting what you've done, which I know one of the LGKAN is going to be tasked with doing. But you become a model of something that can work, and then that becomes something other people within this country can look at, because we're not Finland. We don't have a Scandinavian background. We aren't built up like a European country. The United States, as Marika mentioned earlier today, we really have our own culture and our own esoteric nature that makes us who we are. But that said, part of having 50 states is we have these incubators, these innovators. And it's really exciting to be here because this is where childcare innovation is happening right now. And that's what's neat to see, and that's what's neat to keep talking about.
Great. Thank you. And Lauren, you heard specifically Sharon talking about advancing his profession, and that's something you're very focused on at Macy. So tell us a little about why is that so critical, and how's Vermont doing?
So first of all, it's so fun to be like your mirror that tells you how beautiful you are. It's like I feel like we all look in the mirror and we're like, oh, my neck is clearly. But like we get to be the people who are like you're like your best friend mirror. We're like you're beautiful, you're doing great. So you're beautiful and you're doing great. I think you talked a little bit about the profession. I think we heard even when folks were giving their ideals, the workforce kept coming up as both like what we need is a supported, prepared, compensated workforce. The challenge, Erin talked about it first, is the workforce. And so seeing what Vermont has done, what the word sort of practical came up for me too when I was thinking about this, like very strategic, pragmatic, sort of painstaking approach. We talk about transforming the workforce as though one day it was a caterpillar and the next day it woke up and it was a butterfly. But that's not how transformation really works. It's super painstaking. You all have done enormous work, detail-oriented work over years to engage, to problem solve, which is different than what is happening at the national conversation right now. There's a lot of problem solving that's happening here, addressing the challenges, making changes where they're needed, and really seeing that to move forward, really focusing on, we were saying, I think in terms of the sort of profession work overall, both in terms of NAEYC's work, and I also staff the Commission on Professional Excellence, which sort of is the inheritor of Power to the Profession and the unifying framework work. It's collaborative, and being able to point to a state that is, I think, ahead, but not alone, right? So there are many other places that are doing this work of saying, look, we are not going to go back. We're not going to go back. We are going to keep making progress towards having a recognized, prepared, supported, compensated early childhood education profession that operates across all settings. This is actually also the 10th anniversary of the Transforming the Workforce Report, which for those of you who remember is like a delightful 800-page National Academy of Sciences, when science was a thing that we did, to sort of really focus on. And it really sort of talked about the skills, the competencies, the value of this field. This requires changing and sort of probably making some new mistakes, and it can be scary, and there's a lot of risk, but I think what's scarier than 10 or 20 or 50 years from now, as we've done 10 or 20 or 50 years before, to sit here and say again, we're not babysitters, we need a compensated, prepared, supported profession. Let's make some different mistakes. Let's try to advance something that we know can get us to make this progress to what we see so that people do truly feel recognized as the profession that we know that they are.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Before I move closer to home over here, as folks from the national perspective, what threats or honestly, oddly, opportunities are you seeing, if any, on the federal scene regarding childcare today?
I'm holding the mic.
Anyone can take it.
I'm holding the mic. So all good. Okay, I think there are a couple of sort of specific threats, I think, that sort of operate in terms of, threats to Medicaid and SNAP and what that means for not only individuals, families, educators, but also our state budgets. There's threats to immigrant families. We talked about expanding who gets served and thinking about every family. It's these things are real. There's threats to higher ed. We talked a little bit about the sort of low-income earning provisions. There's policy threats. And then there's sort of the threat overall around the sort of concept of expertise. At the exact moment that we're saying, we are respecting and valuing the expertise that it takes to be an early childhood educator, that it means to do this work. I do think that is also an opportunity here to be able to say, absolutely not. We are double down on the idea that this takes real expertise gained through experience and gained through credit and gained through colleges and gained through higher ed and all kinds of ways that people gain and have that expertise supported and recognized and compensated. but really valuing that, recognizing that, I think there is an opportunity for folks to really stand up and be able to say, like, this isn't some pipe dream, it's not undoable, this is achievable, it's possible, it's achievable, it's literally happening in real time. There's that saying, like, what you can't be, what you can't see, like, you can see it, you guys are being it, so other people can see it, and that is really amazing and provides a real opportunity.
Do you have any surprising opportunities in the moment that we might sink our teeth into?
I think another opportunity is the level of autonomy that's being provided to states. More and more states are going to have significant opportunity from the federal level to do it your way. And you have already laid the foundation for what that needs to look like. So I would say just lean into the autonomy you've been given in this moment and use that to continue to innovate and lead.
I love that. Looking at you, Janet. Very interesting. Sorry. No naming of names. Sorry. Thank you all so much. And again, you know, part of our success, I feel like all the folks around the room and us up here and the board and the team don't like to look in the mirror and, you know, we look at, yeah, our neck looks weird. That's what we like to focus on. I think that's kept us sharp because we don't spend time like self-congratulating. We want to sort of keep our eye on the prize and move forward, and that's what we're trying to do here, much to the chagrin of some of our partners. The work is not done, but Vermonters over here. So round us out a little bit. Let me start with you, Ben. Just you already sort of touched upon this a bit, but you've been an amazing advocate for investments in early for kids, you know, childcare, yes, baby bonds. You know, what do you think are the key challenges facing Vermont today?
Well, you know, everybody keeps on saying that we care about our kids. Our kids are the most important thing, and you know, you go to Congress, you say you want some money for our kids, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we love your kids, and you know, kids are the most important thing to me, but we've already spent it on stuff that you know we don't need, stuff that's not life affirming, but stuff that's death defying." You know, I think the people tend to focus on the symptoms and they don't focus on root causes. And you know, they're focused on homelessness, they're focused on drug addiction, they're focused on crime. These are all things that have their roots in early childhood. And the data exists that, you know, you spend money on helping kids in their early childhood and you don't have to do as much remedial work in later years. And, you know, this is the first I heard about our dear president saying that he's going to cut off funding, student aid for jobs that aren't paying enough money. I mean, money. I mean, this is what that guy understands, short-term money. And he doesn't understand long-term investment. And, you know, as someone here said, I mean, there's a clear solution to the problem is to raise the salary levels of you guys that are doing this incredibly important work. So I'm just really proud to be in this state that is addressing this issue. I'm proud to have personally been supporting the work that you, Allie, and your team have all been doing. And I put a lot of money into trying to change what the federal government is doing. I'm not being near as successful as when I put money into Vermont and what's going on here.
And musing on an ice cream flavor to solve the childcare crisis. You want to think about it for
There's
a
an
bit?
idea.
I'll come back to it.
We'll work on that.
Opening up to a naming contest if anyone has any ideas. Thank you, Ben, so much. All right, Katie and Alora, just so amazing to have you both here, the future of the profession. Alora, it's just really incredible how much experience you already have as a 17-year-old, 18? Oh yeah, 18. amazing. Welcome to that world of responsibility. You know, like you said, you've been advocating, you've been doing amazing work. You testified before the legislature. How was that experience quickly? How was testifying in the legislature?
Scary. Scary, but I got a really good reaction, which made me feel really empowered, and it made me feel like what I was doing really mattered. I already knew that it mattered, but I was able to see like how much of an impact it made, that I was persuading these people.
Amazing. And it was amazing. It was incredible. You were there with your advisor, and it had us all in tears. So it really was amazing. So you've now gotten an incredible amount of classroom experience, again, as an 18-year-old. What's something that surprised you about the work, the profession?
Well, that's a tricky one. I think that surprised me about the kids is when I first came into the job, I kind of was just expecting to play with them. I started when I was about 14, and as I continued to take classes and as I continued to be there, I was able to see how many layers there are to this workforce, which surprised me because I didn't really hear a lot about it. And there's so many layers. Like I was saying earlier, we're molding the next generation. We have to think about the cognitive aspects of these children. We're thinking about the food that they're eating, if they're entertained, if they're feeling comforted. That really surprised me. And it doesn't surprise me anymore because I've been doing this for so long, but I don't think a lot of people think about that. People, they think we're babysitters. They think that we go in and we just play with them and we kind of just sit there. But we're doing so much, and no one really gets that yet.
Keep preaching it. I love it, Laura. It's amazing. So, Katie, are you going to have as a student?
Not for a while, because she has so many classes that she transferred in.
So, all right, Katie, round it out for us. You heard from Lauren and Sharon about advancing this profession. Tell us more about what that means for Vermont, and also, how do you attract young people to this field?
So first of all, people are attracted to this field. They want to work in this field, right? We need to make sure that it's a respected field that people know about and that it requires specific areas of expertise. We need to compensate them so we can retain them and keep them in the jobs that they actually want to work. I recently got tenure at the University of Vermont. Because there's nowhere else that I want to work. This state is where it is happening for early childhood and anyone interested in policy. As a researcher, whenever you talk about teachers in policy, teachers are positioned as interpreters of policy, as implementers of policy. Thanks to the work that has been happening in this state for over a decade, where we've been preparing people in our workforce to be active in the policy process, to understand the policy process, and to know how to advocate through organizations like Let's Grow Kids, Vermont AYC. We have a state where policy is informed by our workforce. Teachers are actually designing policy. That's not happening anywhere else. And this is a place where we just have enormous potential. And if we are able to get this bill passed and professionalize the early childhood workforce, which I hope we are, we're gonna have a workforce-led and a workforce-informed policy that is going to help position our early childhood educators as a profession with specific designations that are easily understood, where people will know who is qualified for which roles and responsibilities. It is going to streamline so many things in our field. It's going to make it easier to fight for things like compensation. It's going to make it easier for all sorts of things in our system. So I'm really excited, and oh goodness, I just feel so happy to be with all of you in this work for the long haul.
Amazing. I'm about to move to questions from the audience to finish this up, so think about anything you're curious about. But why don't you tell us, Katie, what's something you've learned from your students?
Laura taught me how to lift this microphone out from the stand when we started. They have taught me that no one wears skinny jeans as I'm wearing skinny jeans. They have a lot of feedback about a lot of things.
The side parts out, I also hear.
Yeah, it's a mess. I'm a mess. But I I will say they give me such hope. Like, these are young people who are deeply passionate. They understand the role that policy plays in their daily lives. They want to get involved. They want to make change. And every day I get to go to work and talk to people who want to change the world and help them do it. It's amazing.
And Laura, one more for you. So looking ahead, what do you hope to achieve in your career?
To achieve. I so far have got to do so much, and I've gotten to grow up with this group of kids myself, which was really cool. My group of preschoolers who I've known since they were 1 just went to kindergarten as I'm going to college. So that was really cool, and it made me think a lot about what's next for them and for me. I'm in college now, and there's this huge world of opportunities for me, and there's so much that I can do in this field that it's hard to pick. I could be a lead teacher, I could be an assistant teacher, I could be a child psychologist, and I could help work with those problems. It's tricky, but I'm excited to be at UVM because I know I'm going to get to find what I'm going to get to do to help. And that I feel like is what's most important, because these kids need me, and I'll always be able to go to them. I'll always be able to go, which makes me really happy.
All right, y'all. Whew. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Tissues over here? This is a wedding, I knew it. The bar is about to be open, y'all. Any questions, comments? You have been amazing audience. You have been amazing partners. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm pretty new to the field. I'm David Shine, and I'm the new development director of Kids Safe Collaborative. I have a theater background and an arts background. I'm wondering what ideas we have to celebrate the profession in the coming year. You know, or what's going on to celebrate the profession, because it is under-celebrated.
Great question, Laura.
I really love this question, and it goes back to what Marika was saying earlier. Like, I think we've talked about crises for many years, and there are crises to talk about. Like, so I'm not diminishing that, but it also speaks to this question of like this. To Katie's point, this is a profession that people want to come into. They want to come in and say, Laura is like an enormous inspiration to all of us, to be honest. And we've had Laura join us on some webinars to talk about like what it means to be part of this profession. How do we celebrate and show this is something that people want to come into and can stay in as a place where they're recognized and supported throughout their whole careers? Because we've all heard stories of people who they have to leave because they can't make it work for their own families, they can't make the economics work. How do we celebrate the people as this profession coming in and staying? And I think that speaks to sort of showing the image of the profession, showing them engaged in work on a daily basis, the joy, the skill it takes. It's video and images, like there are real ways to sort of demonstrate this. And you can see like the real pictures. I think that really makes people see what's amazing about it and want to come into Celebrate and be a part of it.
And I'll say the most sort of simplistic but powerful ways we should celebrate at the workforce in Vermont is by name. Call them by their names. Early childhood educators.
I think we should celebrate their win by immediately going after compensation and continuing to build.
Questions? Comments? Oh yeah.
I have lost many good teachers because of the inability to access health care, and I'm just wondering what people have to say about that.
I'll just say, when we talk about compensation, we need wages and benefits, first of all. So we are talking about like professional compensation that includes healthcare and paid leave and honestly, in early childhood, things like substitute pools and like the ability to take advantage of. I just have to say, you guys, watching Kim watch Alora is like the greatest thing ever. I'm sorry, but you can see it from here. It's like so inspirational.
Kim is Alora's advisor.
It's wonderful. And so there are states and District of Columbia that is doing really amazing work to expand access to health insurance through a variety of means, whether it's through employers or through the state and giving them access, really. And I know here too, there's been that work to really expand access to healthcare through a number of different sort of state and community mechanisms, so that people really can, again, access that healthcare that they need in order to stay in their jobs. And there are a bunch of examples of how that can work.
I can add a little bit about that DC piece that Laura mentioned, that they had the DC Pay Equity Fund, and it was really positive for a lot of early childhood educators getting access to benefits, and it raised a lot of wages and gave a pay scale, so a lot of people saw a nearly doubling of their income. But then DC decided, you know what, we got a budget going out, we're gonna try and cut it. But you know what, the story doesn't end there. People rebelled. They got really angry, they contacted their councilman, they spoke up, they came to meetings, and it really, for me, as someone who covers this issue, became a turning point where this is not something, a line item you can really zero out on a tough budget year. This is something you have to continue to sustain if you want these types of programs. And the groups are getting more organized, and they're being able to speak up with a stronger voice. And that's something that I know has been something that a lot of these issues have had trouble with over the years, is keeping that one group coalesce and going after something very specific. When we talked to Allie about some of the success of Let's Grow Kids, she's been very clear that we had a goal, we had a point, and we kept moving toward it. So I am hopeful that you will see more groups like this coming together, fighting for benefits, fighting for compensation, doing it with one voice and doing it in a way where it can't be zeroed out just because someone has a change of heart.
Great answer. Bye, Ben. Sorry, I have to go. Don't worry, he's left free ice cream for all of us. So, all right, y'all. It is time for us also to peace out and have some ice cream and cheers each other and be together. But before I do, I just want to thank the panel so much. I mean, the voices that we have here, the voices, the power in this room, okay? The love for kids and families. That's what a movement looks like, y'all. So yes, Let's Grow Kids will be officially gone by the end of this year, but the movement endures, you guys. The movement endures, thank goodness. And to that end, as you've heard a little bit today, Let's Grow Kids Action Network, our partner organization, is ready to hold the torch to move it into the future with these wonderful early child leaders you heard from earlier today. So to end with a call to action, because we never do an event without a call to action, I just want to introduce Emily Tenenbaum, the incoming executive director of Let's Grow Kids Action Network. And I just want to say, Emily has incredible strategic smarts, passion for Vermont kids and families, and has been a force in this movement getting us to where we are today in the last 5 years. So let me quickly, for a call to action, bring up Emily Tenenbaum.
So now I have the really hard job of standing between cocktails, ice cream, and coming after all of these amazing speakers. So I truly maybe have the hardest job today, but I will be quick, I promise. And I'll keep it very quick. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Emily. I've been leading the campaign efforts along with many partners and people here today for the past 5 years. And I'm truly honored and humbled to be here today to carry this through the next chapter as the executive director of the Let's Grow Kids Action Network. I proudly stand before you today because of the leadership and determination of each one of you, our partners, our supporters across the state, and we've accomplished more in the last decade than anyone dreamed was possible. And I know, we've heard everyone's unique story, Laura, so many folks, whether you're a young mom, a legislator, whether you're part of the brilliant village here we have in Vermont helping to grow healthy, happy kids. As a mom of 3, I have my own story. It involved days of complete wonder, stress, chaos, little visits. You might have seen little Lillian here, who's left me with a necklace that she made with an early educator at some point over the past couple of months. But alongside that are early educators that have helped me and my husband and other parents across this state really on this journey of parenthood. And what an amazing partnership that has been for us and so many families here. And as proud as we are of the progress, And believe me, we are proud. I can see all of these proud faces. I can see former staff members and alumni and people who are doing the work each and every day. We are not done. And that's okay, because the one thing I've learned about public policy is, and true societal change, is that the work is unending. But we are the keepers and protectors of this progress. Everyone in this room, every face that's here, and people across Vermont. And it's up to all of us to move that forward. And that's what we're doing here today, writing that next chapter. So, moving forward, the Action Network will continue to protect all current funding dedicated to childcare. We're going to increase and access and affordability for families. Talked about strengthening the workforce. We're going to do that. And one step towards that is passing an early education profession bill next session. So we're excited about all that. We're going to do this in the State House. And we're also going to do that by supporting candidates out there on the campaign trail who are prioritizing childcare across Vermont, and we're going to look to them. And we've long said that childcare does not revolve around one organization, one movement, one moment, or one person, or one organization. It really is about this entire movement. And what do effective advocacy organizations do and movements do? We adapt, we change, we persist, and we take stock, and then we get back to work. That's what it's all about. And I cannot wait to see all of you out in communities, out on the campaign trail, out in committee rooms, in the State House, all over Vermont, and all the places we can take action together. And then I'm going to see you in a little bit, or in a minute, for ice cream and cocktails out there. So let's continue growing Vermont together, and let's continue making something beautiful together. Thank you all so much.
Something beautiful, to give it life, to help it grow, to give it life, to help it grow. I hear something beautiful, I hear something beautiful. Open up my heart, open up my mind, something beautiful. Open up my heart.